At first, my planning was quite simple, but as the project developed, I learned how important detailed preparation really was. Creating a storyboard and short list helped me visualize how tension would be built in my sequence. I also became better at thinking about continuity, lighting conditions, and how each shot connects to the next. This meant that later filming sessions were more efficient and purposeful because I knew exactly what I needed to capture to tell my sequence and story efficiently. My camera work improved a lot during the project. Early test shots were sometimes uneven or lacked clear framing. For my sequence, I initially wanted to show since psychological thrillers relied on controlled visuals, I was planning on showing very steady shots and using a tripod. I did use a tripod for a lot of my shots, but for the shots that, for example, when she figures out the phone and the pictures that were in the phone, she goes out and is trying to look here and there, trying to discard that phone and stuff. And so, like, for me, I wanted to show how realistic that scene would be, because if anybody else was in that position, they would have been panicking. And so I purposely made my shots shaky, and I went after her. I went after my protagonist when she threw the phone away and her walking back. And then when she's walking towards her gate, I deliberately showed how shaky the camera was to show she was breathing heavily and she was paranoid and she's looking here and there, and then she goes up her gate and then she closed the gate. And so I wanted to show the suspense, the thriller, the fear that she had in her with that shaky movement of my camera. And so I would say I also improved my understanding of lights. Instead of relying on a lot of natural light, I also used lamps, positioning lamps, and using shadows to create a darker and more suspenseful atmosphere. For example, in the kitchen shots, when she's going back, I used very little counter lights to showcase the night scenes and the suspense, and she's walking back and she's alone in the house, and all those scenes really relied on my understanding of lighting. My editing skills showed some of the biggest developments. At the very start, I was mainly focused on cutting clips together, but later I understood how editing shapes emotion and tension. Using softwares from Adobe, I learned how to control pacing by shortening or holding clips. I adjusted sound levels to create suspense, the use of color corrections to darken the mode, and all of this really helped me transform the sequence from a simple footage into a coherent psychological thriller opening. As the project progressed, I also became more confident creatively. I started thinking about symbolisms such as how the phone represents surveillance and loss of privacy. I also improved my directing performance, directing or director performances, encouraging more natural expressions and reactions from the actor to make the fear more believable. This showed growth from simply filming events to deliberately constructing meaning for the audience. Another major development was my ability to solve a problem independently. When shots didn't look right, I adjusted angles and lighting rather than settling for them. When pacing felt slow, I re-edited scenes to improve tension and increase their speeds to show the intensity. This showed I had moved from following a plan to actively refining my work. Overall, my production skills developed from basic filming and editing into more thoughtful and controlled processes. By the end of this project, I was making deliberate choices about framing, lighting, pacing, and symbolisms to create a psychological thriller opening that engages the audience and communicates meaning effectively.